Today's passage is Mark chapter 10 verses 32 through 40. Let's read together. They were on their way up to Jerusalem with Jesus leading the way, and the disciples were astonished while those who followed were afraid. Again he took the 12 aside and told them what was going to happen to him. "We are going up to Jerusalem," he said, "and the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death and will hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him and spit on him, flog him, and kill him. 3 days later, he will rise." Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. "Teacher," they said, "we want you to do for us whatever we ask." "What do you want me to do for you?" he asked. They replied, "Let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left in your glory." "You don't know what you are asking," Jesus said. "Can you drink the cup I drink or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with?" "We can," they answered. Jesus said to them, "You will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with, but to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared." Amen. I believe today's passage is an excellent one for meditating on Lent. In it, we encounter the scene where Jesus foretells his suffering, death, and resurrection for the third time. For those of you who have been consistently meditating, you will know. Since this is the third time this content has been mentioned, it makes us realize that this prediction is not a simple one. Verse 32 of the text says, "With Jesus leading the way." Jesus is leading the way. Where is Jesus going now? He is heading toward Jerusalem. We might think of Jerusalem as a city of glory, but what is the situation for Jesus in today's passage? It is the place where the cross awaits. If he goes to Jerusalem, he will be arrested, mocked, flogged, and it is even a place where death awaits. Yet Jesus did not go hiding in the back. He led the way. From this, we get the impression that Jesus is steadfastly walking his own path. Because he went boldly without fear, it even gives us hope that we can go that way too. If you look at the following text, the disciples were astonished, and those who followed were afraid. Why? It seems they probably sensed what kind of path the road to Jerusalem was. The conflict between the religious authorities and Jesus had already existed and was intensifying. The tension was gradually rising. They might have thought that they would surely face something unpleasant if they went to Jerusalem. Through this scene, Mark delivers a very clear message. Jesus was not someone who was dragged to the cross by accident. He is the one who intentionally chose that path in obedience. Here, we can ask ourselves these questions. What path am I on today? What road am I walking? And is Jesus leading the way in my life? Those of you who have hiked will know this. The hardest thing for a beginner hiker is not knowing when it will end. When you climb a mountain for the first time, you have no idea when you will arrive. It's fine after you go 2, 3, 4 times because you know how tired you'll get and when you'll arrive, but it's very difficult at first. However, if someone slowly leads the way, the path becomes much easier. You think, I can't see the path, but if I follow that person, I'll be fine. They say we'll arrive around that point. So I just need to go a little further. Jesus is the one who led the way. He was not someone who commanded from behind, but someone who walked ahead. He didn't tell us, you go first on the path of the cross. Rather, Jesus was the one who showed us by walking the path of the cross first. I hope we remember that he walked it first. If you look at verses 33 and 34 of today's passage, Jesus' prediction is very specific. He says he will be handed over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and they will resolve to kill him. What does it mean to resolve to kill him? It means they will pass a verdict that he is guilty of a crime punishable by death, regardless of whether he is truly guilty or not. He says he will be handed over to the Gentiles, mocked, spat upon, flogged, and even killed. But it does not end there. He says, 3 days later, he will rise. Everyone, this story is not a metaphor or a symbol. It is talking about an actual historical event. The religious authorities of the time, the Sanhedrin and the ruling Roman political power conspired together to execute Jesus. Jesus is now very specifically foretelling that this event will actually happen. In the biblical text, Jesus refers to himself using the expression, Son of Man. This title goes beyond the simple meaning of Son of a Man and contains the image of the ruler from Daniel chapter 7, who is entrusted with God's authority. That glorious Son of Man chooses the path of suffering. Here we see the paradox of the gospel. Glory comes through the cross. Resurrection comes through suffering. However, the disciples at that time did not understand these words. Luke 18:34, a parallel passage to today's text, records it this way. The disciples did not understand any of this. Why didn't they understand? Though we cannot know for sure, it seems they wanted the glory, but not the suffering. The story that follows shows this. Today, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, make a request to Jesus. Let one of us sit at your right and the other at your left, in your glory. When you read this story, it is actually quite shocking. Jesus had just predicted his death moments before, but the disciples are now talking about positions. It seems Mark intentionally connected these two scenes in his gospel. The sight of them fighting over positions right after the prediction of suffering, this is the disciples' misunderstanding. They are still dreaming of occupying a high position. Of course, the expression, in your glory, might indicate a heavenly position rather than an earthly one. However, the essence of the desire is the same. The desire to be exalted is the same. We are no different. In our life of faith, we subtly compare. Who gets more recognition? Who is more influential? Who is more important? It seems to be a human instinct. Everyone, when we take a group photo, who do we look for first? Ourselves. We first check if we came out well, if our eyes were closed or open, if we look good in the picture. It seems people always see things from a self-centered perspective. We check if we are standing in a prominent spot, in the center, or if we are not hidden. The disciples were the same. Jesus' story was about the cross, but their interest was in their own positions. Jesus asks them a question, and I believe he is asking us today as well. Can you drink the cup I drink, or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with? Here, the cup in the Old Testament symbolizes God's wrath and judgment. In Psalm 75, Jeremiah 25, and Habakkuk 2, this expression cup is used with the words wrath and judgment. So, the cup Jesus is talking about is not the cup of wine or celebration that we think of, but the cup of judgment. Jesus is about to drink that cup of wrath on our behalf. And what about the baptism that follows? Baptism has the image of being immersed in water, doesn't it? It means to be completely immersed in suffering, in other words, death. He is asking, can you die? Can you receive the cup of wrath, the cup of judgment? Can you die? The disciples answer, we can, which they do not understand what they are saying. It's like answering, yes, we can, when asked, can you die? Did the disciples really do so? We know. We know that when Jesus was arrested, all the disciples fled. Jesus says, you will drink the cup I drink. This does not mean that the disciples will take Jesus' place in the atoning work. However, they will later participate in Jesus' path. They will join in the path of suffering, the path of service, the path of humility. It is said that the apostle James was the first to be martyred, and John is known to have endured long years of persecution. The path of a disciple is not a spectator's seat but a participant's place. The cross is not something to be admired. It is a path on which we must place our feet. In today's passage, Jesus says one last thing. But to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared. Here we see an important theological message. Glory and reward are in God's sovereignty. We do not need to calculate our positions. If we believe that God is just, we do not need to live coveting positions. Our part is one thing. What is it? It is to live faithfully in the place given to us today, to live with loyalty. Dear brothers and sisters, what kind of day should we live today? It should be a day of trusting the path Jesus leads, a day of following because the Lord is ahead even if we don't understand and are afraid, a day of accepting not only glory, but also suffering. I hope for a day of choosing obedience even when it seems like a loss, a day of choosing service over position, a day of rejoicing in being faithful rather than being recognized. No cross, no crown. There is no glory without the cross, but it will not end with the cross. This one sentence, 3 days later he will rise, is also the gospel. Suffering is not the end. The resurrection awaits. We must press on to that point. Dear saints, I bless you in the name of the Lord that today will not be a day of striving to be exalted, but a day of walking along with the Lord. I pray that you will look to Jesus who leads the way. Let go of calculating your own position, and fill your day with service and obedience. And I believe that as these days accumulate to become our lives, at the end of that life, the glory God has prepared, the glory of the resurrection, will be waiting for us. I pray in the name of the Lord, that today will be another day of walking along with the cross.